Hello, my name is Artur Valerievich and I teach anatomy. And today we're gonna speak about regional lymph nodes and lymph vessels and pathway of drainage of lymph of your body and something about main organs of immune system. So we will start with lymph nodes of your head and neck. And main thing about lymph nodes, it's that they situated, as you can see, next to main vessels. And if we talk about superficial lymph nodes, in most cases they accompany veins and will have the same name, it is easy. If we talk about deep lymph nodes, in most cases they accompany arteries, deep arteries, and have also the same name. You have nodi lymphatici, occipitalis, occipital lymph nodes that lay next to vein. You have nodi lymphatici mastoideae that lay on the level of mastoid process. You have a lot of lymph nodes in parotid gland, and they will have name like superficial nodi lymphatici parotidi superficialis, and here you can see nodi lymphatici parotidi profunda, deep inside parotid gland. Next, accompany facial vein, there will be nodi lymphatici facialis. On the level of cheek, there will be nodi lymphatici buccalis. On mandible, nodi lymphatici mandibularis. And this lymph, efferent vessels, efferent lymph vessels from all these facial lymph nodes are going down. So lymph from your head drained into the lymph nodes of your neck. Almost all lymph from your head and organs of your head is drained into this group of lymph nodes. It's submandibular lymph nodes from your tongue and teeth and salivary glands. All this lymph is drained into the submandibular lymph nodes. There is a lot of them. Next, under the chin, there is nodi lymphatici submentalis, accompany the same vein, and this lymph from submental and submandibular region is drained into the lymph nodes of neck. And all lymph nodes of neck are divided on like anterior and lateral group. And in these two groups, they subdivided into deep and superficial. So we have nodi lymphatici cervicalis anterioris superficialis, superficial anterior group that accompany vena jugularis anterior. Here you can see them. And nodi lymphatici cervicalis anterioris profunda, deep one that are situated around organs of your neck. So there will be nodi lymphatici thyroideae or parathyroideae, nodi lymphatici prelaryngealis in front of larynx, and infrahyoideae below hyoid bone. So this is anterior group. The biggest group of lymph nodes, it's lateral cervical lymph nodes. So again, lateral cervical also subdivided into deep and superficial. Superficial accompanies, you may guess, vena jugularis externa, nodi lymphatici cervicalis lateralis superficialis. And the deep group, it's accompany vena jugularis interna. As you can see, there is a lot of them. It's about 40 or 50 of them, and almost all lymph from your head and neck are drained into this deep lateral lymph nodes. This big group, and in this group you have some special lymph nodes. First one, it's this one that's laying in the point where cross of vena jugularis interna and posterior belly of musculus digastricus, as you can see. So here is this node, and here it will have name nodus jugula digastricus. And second one laying here on the way where is cross of vena jugularis interna and omohyoid muscle. So it will called nodus jugulomohyoidus. So all these efferent vessels, efferent lymph vessels from deep cervical lymph nodes are going down, unite, and create jugular trunk, truncus jugularis. And that's all about lymph nodes of head and neck. Lymph vessels of upper limb accompany veins and will divided on superficial and deep. And superficial lymph vessels accompany basilica and vena cephalica. So you will have lateral and medial tract. Deep accompany deep arcs and deep veins, urinaris radialis and brachialis. And first lymph nodes will situated in the cubital fossa. In cubital fossa can be a nodi lymphatic cubitalis, but they not permanent, they can be absent, and if they are present, there will be like 3 or 4 of them, not a lot. But if you talk about deep, lymph from deep vessels are drained into the axillary lymph nodes. And axillary lymph nodes, it's very big group of lymph nodes. Axillary lymph nodes, it's a big group, it's about 60 lymph nodes can be there. And you can subdivide them on few groups. So first of all, it's nodi lymphatic subscapular group that laying on musculus subscapularis. Next, it's nodi lymphatic pectoralis, pectoral group of lymph nodes. It's situated on pectoralis major, minor, and the lateral wall of your thorax. Nodi lymphatic humeral lymph nodes that's situated on vena axillaris. It's next to neck of your humerus. Next, nodi lymphatic centralis, central group. They are laying just in the middle of axillary vein. And nodi lymphatic apicalis, apical group that are situated in the top of axillary cavity, and they gather all lymph from your upper limb and wall of your thorax. As you can see, some lymph from your thorax also drained there. They gather its lymph and pay attention in axillary lymph nodes. Drained almost all lymph from your mammary gland, and efferent lymph vessels from this apical group joined and create truncus subclavius. Lymph nodes of your thorax. Lymph nodes of your thoracic cavity also accompany the same veins and will divided on the same groups, parietal and visceral. So if you talk about parietal lymph nodes, there will be nodi lymphatic intercostalis on posterior wall. On anterior wall will be nodi lymphatic parasternalis, that laying next to vena thoracica interna. On inferior wall will be nodi lymphatic phrenicis superioris, that laying on diaphragm. So, and visceral. All visceral lymph nodes of your thoracic cavity can be divided on two groups. It's nodi lymphatic mediastinalis anterioris and mediastinalis posteriors. Mediastinalis anterioris, it's not a lot of them, only like this laying on arc of aorta can be, or on vena cava superior. But the biggest group of lymph nodes of thoracic cavity, it's nodi lymphatic mediastinalis posteriors, posterior mediastinal group, and most of them are this group that collect lymph from your lungs. So everything starts in lungs, this small lymphocapillaries, you remember, network, and then lymph vessels. And first lymph nodes, they go through its nodi intrapulmonalis. Intrapulmonal lymph nodes are situated inside parenchyma of lungs. Next, lymph go further and reach these lymph nodes in the hilum of pulmonis that cause nodi bronchopulmonalis, bronchopulmonal lymph nodes. Then efferent vessels go to the next lymph nodes that situated around bifurcation of trachea, and they will called, if this group below bifurcation, that will have name nodi tracheobronchialis inferioris. This one above, this will be nodi lymphatic tracheobronchialis superioris. So this all lymph from your lungs are gathered into this superior tracheobronchial lymph nodes, then go next to paratracheal lymph nodes, nodi lymphatic paratrachealis. Efferent vessels from these nodes unite and create two trunks, left and right. Actually, truncus bronchomediastinalis. Lymph from most parietal lymph nodes are, as you can see, drained straight into the ductus thoracicus. And we go to the lymph nodes of your lower limb. It's easy here. It's the same as upper limb, superficial and deep vessels. Superficial accompany vena saphena, magna, and parva. Deeps accompany tibialis anterior posterior, poplite, and femoralis veins. So everything starts on the backside of your foot. There's two group of lymph vessels. One like medial group accompany vena saphena magna and go up and collect lymph from all your hip region, from your anterior region of your leg, and reach first group of lymph nodes. It will be inguinal lymph nodes, nodule lymphatic inguinalis. If you talk about posterior group and from like lateral part of your foot and posterior surface of your leg, they go up, accompany saphena parva, and reach popliteal lymph node. So on the leg, on the lower limb, as you can see, we have only two group of lymph nodes: nodule lymphatici poplitealis, popliteal group, and nodule lymphatici inguinalis. Nodule lymphatici poplitealis, they collect lymph only from posterior surface of leg and lateral margin of foot, and of course from deep tissues of your leg and foot. Nodule lymphatici poplitealis, there is not a lot of them. Small group that's situated in popliteal fossa next to vein and arteria. And the efferent vessels of them, they go up, accompany vena femoralis, and reach inguinal region and nodule lymphatic inguinalis. Nodule lymphatic inguinalis. Inguinal lymph nodes, they subdivided on superficial and deep. So here is superficial, as you can see, they situated above fascia lata of hip. Deep one situated under this fascia. And superficial lymph nodes can be subdivided on like superior, middle, and inferior group, like above hiatus saphenous, on the level of hiatus saphenous, or below this hiatus saphenous. Anyway, the superficial lymph nodes collect lymph from hip region of superficial tissues of leg and foot. And as you can see, even deep inguinal nodes situated under the fascia, they collect lymph from popliteal lymph nodes and deep tissues of hip and leg. And pay attention, we have one special lymph node that's situated in lacuna vasorum. In this femoral ring, you have one big lymph node that have a eponymical name, node of Rosenmüller or Pirogov in our literature. And this deep inguinal node occupy this femoral ring. So these deep inguinal lymph nodes gather lymph from all your lower limb, and efferent vessels from these nodes go up and reach iliac lymph nodes of your pelvis. Nodes of your pelvic cavity also can be divided in parietal and visceral, and accompany veins and have the same name. It's easy. We have big vena iliaca externe and vena iliaca interne. So all these lymph nodes will have name nodi lymphatici ilialis externi and nodi lymphatici ilialis interni. And iliaci externi collect lymph from your inguinal lymph nodes. Iliaci interni collect lymph from your internal organs of your pelvic cavity, and from your around your internal organs you will have lymph nodes. So if you have uterus, you will have nodule lymphatici parauterini. There is vesica urinaria, there will be nodule lymphatici paravesicalis. If there is rectum, there will be nodule lymphatici pararectalis. It's visceral. If you talk about parietal, they will have the same name, that the veins they accompany. There will be nodule lymphatici sacralis, nodule lymphatici glutealis superioris, inferioris, obturatori. So all this lymph from this and parietal and visceral lymph nodes of your pelvic cavity is drained, as you can see, into the iliac lymph nodes, or internal or external. Anyway, it will collect two common lymph nodes that laying next to common iliac vein are called nodule lymphatici ilialis communis. So all this lymph from external and internal iliac lymph nodes are drained into the common iliac lymph nodes. And then its efferent vessels from these lymph nodes go up and create the biggest and the main group of lymph nodes, nodi lymphatic lumbalis. And here we come to lymph nodes of your abdominal cavity. So lymph nodes of your abdominal cavity also subdivided on parietal and visceral, and also they accompany the same arteries and veins and have the same name. So if you talk about parietal lymph nodes of your abdominal cavity, there will be like nodi lymphatici, phrenici inferioris, they accompany the same arteries laying on inferior surface of diaphragm. There will be nodi lymphatici, epigastrici inferioris on anterior wall. It accompany a vena epigastrica inferior, you remember. And the biggest group on posterior wall of abdominal cavity, the biggest group, it's nodi lymphatici lumbalis, subdivided on two groups, a left group and a right group. Left, that are situated around aorta, right are situated around vena cava inferior. Left group are nodi lymphatici pre-aortalis, in front of aorta, para-aortalis, beside aorta, and behind will be retro-aortalis. A right group comprise nodi lymphatici pre-cavalis, nodi lymphatici para-cavalis, and behind nodi lymphatici retro-cavalis. So efferent vessels from your these lumbar nodes unite and create two trunks, truncus lumbalis dexter and truncus lumbalis sinister, that will unite and create ductus thoracicus. What about visceral lymph nodes of abdominal cavity? Visceral lymph nodes of your abdominal cavity is the biggest group. It's around 400 or even 500 of lymph nodes in your intestines. There are three ways of drainage of lymph from your internal organs of abdominal cavity, according to three main arteries that supply them. So around truncus celiacus will be nodi lymphatici celiaci, around arteria mesenterica superior nodi mesenterici superioris, and around inferior nodi mesenterici inferioris. And if you talk about nodi lymphatici celiaci that laying next to truncus celiacus, it collect lymph, as you can see, from your stomach, from your spleen, from pancreas, from duodenum, from hepar and gallbladder, and also from superior part of duodenum. Next, if you talk about this group, nodi lymphoids mesentericis superioris, as you can understand, they collect lymph from your small intestine, from ileum, iunum, from cecum, from appendix, from colon ascendens and colon transversum, and mesenteris inferioris. They, as you can understand, they collect lymph from rectum, superior part of rectum, sigmoid colon, colon descendens, and part of transverse. So you have three main group: nodi lymphatici celiaci, mesenterici superioris, and mesenterici inferioris, that collect all lymph from your internal organs of abdominal cavity, unpaired. That is, efferent vessels from all these three main group are also drained into lumbar lymph nodes, to nodi lymphatici lumbalis, or directly to ductus thoracicus. And in some cases, I explained you, in 30% of cases, this, as you can see, lymph vessels from mesenterici superioris and mesenterici inferioris can unite and create its own trunk that calls truncus intestinalis. Anyway, it fall into ductus thoracicus, and then ductus thoracicus go up into thorax and cervical region and fall into the left venous angle. So that's how you can see that in left venous angle there is drainage of nearly like 75% of all your lymph. Left venous angle collect lymph from your lower limbs, pelvic cavity, organs of pelvic cavity, abdominal cavity and organs of abdominal cavity. Next, from your left half of thorax and organs of thorax, from your left upper limb, and left half of neck and head. But if you talk about right venous angle, it collects only 25% of lymph. It collects lymph from your right upper limb, right half of thoracic cavity and organs of thoracic cavity, and right half of neck and head and its organs. And that's all about drainage of lymph and the regional lymph nodes of your body. Immune system. It's a very complex mechanism for protection of your body from antigens, from like alien genetic information that get to your body from outside or can be created inside your body. All organs of your immune system are divided on central and peripheral organs. Central organs, thymus and medulla osseum rubra. So all your cells of your blood are created in bone marrow, medulla osseum rubra, and then get it to the blood. So do immune cells, all your immune cells. Thymus is small organ that's situated in superior mediastinum, in area interpleurica superior, in front of arc of aorta. And what happens in thymus? To tell what happens in thymus, we must discuss main mechanisms of immunity. In your body, there is two ways of protection from these antigens. You have humoral response and you have cell response. And there is two mechanisms and two different cells for these mechanisms. And all they produced in bone marrow. For humoral response, you have B lymphocytes, B cells. For cell response, you have T lymphocytes, T cells. They are naive. They do not know whom they need to kill. So there must be some like education of these immune cells. And if you talk about T cells, like this education of T cells happens in thymus. That's why they called T cells, because they proliferated in thymus. So from bone marrow, T cells migrate into the thymus. In thymus happened like antigen-independent proliferation. They study whom they must not to kill. They study of your own like antigens, of your own genetic information. When this proliferation happened, they all again get to your blood flow and migrate, and then they migrate to your periphery organs of immune system. And so do B cells. B cells also from your bone marrow just straight migrate to your periphery organs of immune system. Most of them you already know. First of all, it's tonsils, like pharyngeal ring of tonsils. Second, it's all your lymph nodes. You remember, in lymph nodes you have T and B zones. Next, it's spleen or leon, it also immune system. Then it's all your follicles, follicular lymphoidae solitary and follicular lymphoidae aggregate or pair patches. Next, appendix. Also appendix, it's like big pair patch. And this follicular lymphoidae solitary, they are present not only in intestines. In your urinary system, in urethra, you have these follicles. In your bronchi and trachea also. So what is principles? Main principles of these periphery lymph organs, they situated in the place where is possible ways of like penetration of these antigens, gates of respiratory and digestive system, and from one side and from another, genital system and urinary systems, and respiratory tract and digestive tracts, and even in skin you have some specific cells. So all these T and B cells, they spread into your periphery organs, and they wait there. What they wait for? They wait for presentation. We have specific cells in your body. We have APC cells, they have the same name, antigen presentation cells. It's macrophages and other phagocytes, and in most cases dendritic cells. That's situated in your skin, in the blood flow, in all your this also gates of penetration of antigens. They eat these antigens, bacteria, viruses. They digest them, but they extract genetic information from these bacteria and viruses, and they transport it on its membrane, on the surface of the cells, and like show it. This is called presentation. And what happens next? Then next, these APC cells, they migrate into your periphery lymph organs. If you talk about skin, they migrate to the nearest organ. It will be your lymph nodes. It will be your regional lymph nodes. So they migrate to your lymph nodes. If it's happened like in digestive system, if you eat something wrong, it's migrate to your Peyer's patches, only follicles, anything. And so the respiratory and urinary system. In all these, structure of all these peripheral lymph organs, they are similar. You remember there is like T zone and B zone, whereas these T and B cells are sitting and waiting. They waiting for these APC cells. These APC cells with this information get to these zones, in most cases to B zones, and show this genetic information to your B cells and also T cells. In this moment, this happens antigen-dependent proliferation of T cells. They finally study whom they must to kill. And they know now when someone presented them this information. And then from these lymph nodes, they go out into blood flow. They must reach this place where it is invasion of this bacteria. And they find it and kill it. But what does B lymphocytes do? B lymphocytes also study this information, like antigen proliferation, and then they transforms into the plasmacytes, some like incubation period, and then they destroy and reveal antibodies. Actually, your B lymphocytes are produced antibodies that very specific molecules that find that virus or that infected cell and target it for another immune cells, and they together will kill it. So that's why it calls humoral immune response, because it produces antibodies into your blood. T cells kill by itself. It's cell against cell. So that's why it's called cell mediated immune response. For today, it's all. So thank you for your attention. Ask me questions, subscribe to the channel, and see you later. Peace.